listening to the Full Court Press with your host, Drew Duncan. Don't you dare touch that dial. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Full Court Press. I am your host, Drew Duncan. Don't forget, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Drew Duncan 83. Ronda Rousey has officially splashed on to the WWE scene. You know, I was a big WWE fan back in the day. Huge. Stone Cold Steve Austin was my guy. You know, eventually everybody kind of fell in love with The Rock as well. Obviously, Hulkamania ran wild. Matter of fact, I'll never forget when I was a real little kid, Confessions of a Broadcaster. I thought Hulk Hogan had lost the match. I'm getting ready to watch WrestleMania 8 with my dad. And I thought Hogan had already lost. And I went crying and screaming around the house. I was like, my favorite wrestler's he's not going to be there anymore. Because, you know, he was wrestling Sid Vicious. And I was confused about what was going on for WrestleMania 8. And when I saw that he had lost, I was confused about the situation, and I thought, now he's not going to be wrestling anymore, freaking out. And then, of course, he evolved eventually into Hollywood Hogan. By the way, he won that match against Sid Vicious. And to this day, we have WrestleMania 8 on VHS. That's cassette tape for all of you youngins out there. And I watched it I don't know how many times. And it's one of my all-time favorite WrestleManias is WrestleMania 8. Hell of a show. My favorite match was Bret Hart and Roddy Piper, the late, great Roddy Piper, who Ronda Rousey got her name from. And so the question is, what is Rowdy Ronda Rousey to the WWE now? You know, honestly, I think that in the, quote, Attitude Era, she probably would have fit in perfectly. The way that she is on social media, the way that she talked about Holly Holm when she's getting ready to fight her. You know, the things that were going on, plus she's a hell of a self-promoter, which is what MMA is. It's all self-promotion. But when you have a gold mine, what do you do with that? What are the storylines going to be? How entertaining is this truly going to be? How interesting is this truly going to be? Is this a flash in the pan, one-stop shop? Is Ronda Rousey going to be actually seriously active in this ordeal? Is Ronda Rousey going to be the piece of the puzzle that brings back fans like myself who are upset about a couple of things in the WWE? Look, we love the Attitude Era, and we love Stone Cold and The Rock and Hollywood Hogan and the NWO and Scott Hall. We loved them for reasons of it felt so much more realistic. Even if you knew it was fake, it felt real. Bret Hart as a heel felt real, man. It felt like it was really being who he was. And when these guys kind of started to incorporate more of who they really are into their characters, it added such a great level of authenticity to it that it was almost unspeakable how truly great it really was. Now, look, I'm not a guy that dogs on the what they call now the PG era in wrestling because of the format change, and they're not allowing these guys to do a lot of the things that they did before. You know, to be honest with you, my mother really hated me watching wrestling when it came into the Attitude Era, and I can understand why. You know, when I think about it now as an adult, I probably wouldn't allow my kids to watch the Attitude Era in wrestling until they got a little bit older. Just because I understand that Steve Austin flipping the bird and drinking beer and some of the scenarios that they had with The Undertaker, it kind of went a little too far to me, in my opinion, now as an adult. Even then as a kid, there were times when I thought, come on, guys, like, what are you doing? You know, but it was all part of the act. It was all part of the entertainment. Can they get back to that now? I mean, look, you know, the WWE has something in Ronda Rousey that I don't think that they've had in a long time, and that is already given star power. Whether you love her or you hate her, you will probably tune in to see what's going on. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that even now as I speak about her, they're rolling their eyes in their head. Come on, man. Ronda Rousey, she couldn't cut the mustard in the UFC. She got exposed, et cetera, and that's why she's heading to the WWE. Well, first of all, I don't feel like Rousey ever really got exposed. And I'm a Rousey fan for a lot of reasons. But one of the things that I alluded to after her loss with Holly Holm was I really felt that Rousey was disrespected by a lot of people that claimed to be on her side, and they flipped on her at the drop of a hat. It wasn't difficult at all for people to start saying how overrated she was, including their own Joe Rogan, who before that fight called Ronda Rousey once ever. That's an exact quote. She's not once, she's once ever, not once in a lifetime, not once a decade, not once in a millennia. She is once ever. They compared her ring walk to Mike Tyson when she was coming to the ring for that fight. And out of thin air, when she lost, Joe Rogan, quote, she wasn't able to dominate opponents the way she was before that really weren't that good, end quote. Really? It happened that quickly. She was the originator. Her and Conor McGregor helped bring the UFC to the heights unparalleled that we see it at now. And if it hadn't been for those two, the UFC probably would have never gone mainstream. And now Ronda Rousey could potentially bring back fans that had switched over from the WWE to the UFC, back to the WWE, and go, this could be entertaining to watch. But will they use her correctly? You know, one of the things that I think about with already given star power was when Stone Cold Steve Austin was getting ready for WrestleMania 14, and he was going to have his first ever WWF title match against Shawn Michaels, and they brought in Mike Tyson. Tyson at the time was suspended from boxing. He wasn't allowed to do anything. And so it was perfect for him to be able to stay in the focus of the people by going over to the WWE. But some of the things that led up to it, while they were phenomenal, the aftermath left a lot of us with a lot of unanswered questions because they never really dove into why Mike Tyson punched, quote, Shawn Michaels. There was just a lot of leftover that we didn't understand. You see, I thought the WCW was really great at handling people with star power when they brought in Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone. I mean, they just knew what to do with those guys. And Rodman, to be honest with you, was really great in the ring. See, when you're given the gift of the century, you have to use it correctly, and you have to understand what's in your hand. You know, the WWE has bought everything out, as we know, and branded themselves off into, you know, for a long time, TNA and other places, and they were doing 4-hour Raw, and then they dropped it to 3-hour Raw, and I've always thought that 2 hours was plenty, but be that as it may, the bottom line here is, what direction are they going to take with Ronda Rousey? Is she going to be a villain? Is she going to be a hero? Because there's a lot of people out there that can't stand Roman Reigns and feel like the WWE shoved him down their throats and tried to make him a hero when they wanted him to be a heel. And the whole thing about him and John Cena was passing the torch to him and trying to get him to cut decent promos and all this stuff that was going on. Because there's so much that goes into being a wrestler. And from the one clip that I saw with Ronda Rousey just pointing at WrestleMania and getting her hand slapped away, and it just really didn't seem like she really knew how to assert herself yet in the ring. Now, understand that it's a different vibe. She's got to, you know, remember that while it's scripted, you got to stay in character and all those things. But Ronda Rousey, essentially, people are going to look at her as being just Ronda Rousey. Can they turn her into Ronda Rousey, the character, and be truly rowdy Ronda Rousey? Does she have to be like Roddy Piper? No, but to wrestling fans, to carry that name is a big deal. And I've seen several interviews with Jesse the Body Ventura, who has said on many occasions, look, you don't mess with a wrestling fan. They are diehard, hardcore, in-your-face fans. And I know. I remember very vividly one time I was talking to somebody online, and, it was a good conversation, and, then she started talking about Ric Flair retiring, and I was like, well, it's about time. And I mean, the conversation ended there. Fans of wrestling are diehard, and they are the truest fans that you'll ever meet at its purest form, because they stand by what they love no matter what. Even when they disagree with what you're doing, they will come back to you. So if they're going to have Ronda Rousey, they're going to have to figure out how to do this, because her shaking the hand of Stephanie McMahon is not a small deal to WWE fans, because the McMahon family, and I haven't watched for a while, obviously. I think the last pay-per-view I saw was the hair match with Steve Austin, and Trump was involved in all that, and Vince McMahon ended up getting his head shaved. I mean, that was the last pay-per-view I bought, and that was how many years ago? At least a decade. So the McMahon family, for a long time, starting with Vince, obviously, has been very villainous. So what are they going to do with Rousey? Are we going the villain role? What's the angle here? You're going to have to be careful. You're going to have to be meticulous. This is something that they're going to have a set game plan on, and they're going to have to be willing to adjust along the way while sticking to their original game plan. Because if you blow this thing, it's going to be bad for everybody. And I think, honestly, it would be worse for the WWE than it would be Ronda Rousey, because I think everybody knows that having a Ronda Rousey is a complete goldmine. You've already had guys like Ken Shamrock and Brock Lesnar and a few others that have been involved on both sides of the coin, the WWE and the UFC. That was how Shamrock started in WWE, right? Because he was going to be the referee for the Bret Hart-Steve Austin match, and he ended up having a pretty good run. If you get used correctly, you'll have a mainstay in the WWE. But the fans' reaction is the most important thing. Look, we heard Vince McMahon when he was talking about the XFL. We're going to listen to the fans, what people want. And he still makes that claim to this day about the WWE. Look, we're going to listen to the fans. Now, look, we the fans, we're not always right. And I say we the fans because at the end of the day, I'm a fan just like you or anybody else. That's why I do this, because I just love sports. But through thick and thin, a WWE fan will remain, but you can make your brand really bad. Look, there's a lot of talk, and it's been going on for a while now on the internet. I think it's just popular conversation that the WWE is no good, the ratings are down, the pay-per-view buy rates aren't very good. But any highlight that I see from new wrestling events, it looks to me like those are sold-out venues, and they look to be a little bit bigger than they were when it was just Monday Night Raw, and it was the Monday Night Wars that were going on between the then WWF, now WWE, and WCW. Was it a great time to be a wrestling fan? Absolutely it was. I mean, how many of us were flipping channels back and forth trying to figure out what was going to be the most entertaining thing going on? It made everybody step up their game. And I think that this could be an opportunity where we see the WWE possibly step up their game, and people look at this and go, this is what we remember about wrestling. This is why we loved it, and get you hooked again. There's a lot of new characters obviously out there that I haven't seen or even know anything about. But with a Rousey there on a Monday night, I might stick around to see what's going on with other wrestlers. So, what's going to be another big part of it? Timing. Do I have her at the beginning of the show? Do I have her towards the middle of the show? Do I make people wait till the end of the show? Do I have her throughout parts of the show? Because obviously you don't want people to get tired of her. But you don't want people to lose interest because they're not seeing her quick enough either. I mean, this is a real pickle that the WWE could find themselves in. But they are smart people. The McMahons have made themselves a very successful, long-lasting business. I'm actually interested to find out where they go with Ronda Rousey. I truly am. And if they do this right, the WWE could potentially begin to really mix some of that Attitude Era with the PG era and make things great. Look, Stone Cold still drank beer at Raw 25, guys. he still gave the McMahon Stone Cold Stunners at Raw 25. He had to. I get it. It's Austin. He's got to do his thing. And so maybe he gets a slight. But maybe they don't get that anymore. But you could combine some of that with Rousey, who after all kind of has this badass, I don't give a flip about nothing attitude to her to a point. And they could definitely use that to their advantage. And with Rousey being a big name and people already loving aspects about her, not only could they carry that authenticity over that I was talking about earlier, but they could help create a character like a Hollywood Hogan when he transitioned to that, or a Stone Cold, or a The Rock character that made them larger than life, provided that they do this correctly. This is the Full Court Press. I am your host, Drew Duncan. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan 83. Don't you dare touch that dial.